After 11 races so far this season, the championship chase in Formula 1 is now a straight fight between the ever-consistent Ove Trengarade and Sébastien Tixier, who picked up his third win of the season last week at Phillip Island. But for the final challenge, these two drivers, along with the rest of the field, are going to have a literal mountain to climb. We will soon see who will rise above the rest and ascend to the top as we get ready for the 12th and final round of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you're going to see all the action live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozzi, and alongside me today in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. For the finale of the season and of 2022, the Grand Prix Legends field head back to Bathurst, New South Wales, and the legendary Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit. And what better way to learn more about this staple venue of Australian motorsports than with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrod Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today.
Well, Jake, we're back to a circuit that the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends have already visited back in March this year, back in Season 2. And even though the sporting matters and stakes are very much different this time around, the challenge will remain as grueling as ever for the drivers.
It absolutely will, and there is a reason, and a strong reason, why this circuit is so revered. It's one of the great street circuits of all time, and one of those circuits which you look at on the Australian calendar and go, this track has an immensity around it. It's got a fantastic opening sector which pretty much just says you've got to go flat out quickly around this circuit. It's going to be a fast ride. But then the moment you start running up through the Cutting, Reed Park, Sulman Park, going through the Metal Grate, McPhillamy Park, over Peter Brock's Skyline and down the S's and the Dipper, that is one of the most iconic bits of circuit that you will ever have. And you've got a piece of machinery that is over 50 years old, nearly 60 years old underneath them today. They're going to be hoping that that right foot stays planted firmly to the ground and that they won't have to use too much the left foot. Otherwise, they'll be going for a helter-skelter of a ride down the hill, which sees a crash from the S's go all the way pretty much to the Forest's Elbow.
Yes, indeed. And then the run down Conrad Straight and the braking zone down to the chase. The prime passing opportunity here at Mount Panorama is going to be quite a sight to behold and quite an exhilarating challenge for the drivers. Let's take a look at the Formula 1 driver standings right now. As it stands, it is Ove Trengarade currently leading the standings with 474 points, and Sébastien Tixier, courtesy of back-to-back wins in Interlagos and Phillip Island, currently sits just 18 points behind Trengarade in the standings. If Tixier wins this race and Ove finishes 9th or lower, even though they are tied, it would be Tixier winning on countback of race wins, with 3 race wins so far compared to 1 for Trengarade. John Olsen currently sitting in 3rd place, 54 points adrift of the leader. Mikko Makela in P4, Lars Stolsen P5, Javier Sanchez, Neil Kemp, Miro Rashki, Gary Quellen, and Marco Antonio Lopez in that order complete the top 10 in Formula 1. In Formula 2, Jake, the situation is rather different.
It is. David Rossi has ran away with it. 358 points. He's cleared by a good 99 over Rolly Wallbank in second position. Not much you can really argue with about that, but it's worth keeping an eye on these positions further down. Emmanuel Pereira, currently third overall. Andrew Eng is fourth out there at this point in time, with Glenn Becker and Jiri Wikström in sixth position. Close battle, fifth and sixth, just 2 points between them. Tobias Hanvi is in seventh, with Cam Porter in eighth. A close battle between them. Michael Grissinger is ninth, and Terry Trommershauser rounds out the top 10. He's 180 points adrift, but still very close as we head to the Cup of Nations, Thomas.
In the Cup of Nations standings, Finland currently leading with 555 points, but the US are just within 9 points of a difference in second position and within striking distance of actually snatching the title away from Finland. Norway currently sitting in P3, with the United States being the American meat in the Nordic sandwich, so to speak. Singapore currently sitting in fourth position, 50 points adrift to the leaders. Spain completes the top 5 provisionally, with the United Kingdom, Australia, Denmark, Slovakia, and Germany in that order, completing the top 10 as we head into the final round of the race. And Jake, it's pretty much a repeat of what we've seen in March in Season 2, 17 laps of racing, but yeah, no spare car available, so one single mistake and you're out of the day entirely.
Yes, and that is so crucial to keep in mind, that they are racing today around one of the most treacherous racetracks in the world. This is a track which can so easily lead to track blockages and trouble, because this is public roads. This is effectively a two-way street that they come up here as they descend down Conrad Straight. And so many times, I've got friends actually that live in Bathurst, the amount of police reports that are filed from people who are trying to go fast on this Conrad Straight is honestly beyond belief, as many people find that when you go here, this is such an incredible place to just get an understanding of what true racing is all about. We're keeping an eye on Sebastian Tixier's first times, but as well to keep in mind, it's not going to be as relevant here today, but 17 instant points means that it's a drive-through penalty. 25 means disqualification. Not expecting too many drivers to deal with so much. Sebastian Tixier just went fastest, but not by much. 0.03 of a second over Heike 360 ES Xavier Sanchez.
Indeed, Tixier, Sanchez, and Benjamin Choco currently sitting in third with a 2:03.508, as we're currently following along with Mick Claridge, currently looking at his first time on the board. You can see so far 16, 17 drivers having posted a time up on the board. On board with Mick as we run all the way up the hill, now down through the cutting, getting very close to the inside right there, and then hugging the apex on this long, tight left-hander. Then be very, very cautious when you apply the throttle as you make your way all the way through to Reed Park and Salmon Park. Here we go through Reed Park now. Mick Claridge currently looking pretty neat and tidy all the way through as we head down to McPhillamy. We're at the top of the mountain already and gearing up for the S's, which can be very tricky. It's all downhill with an even greater incline coming up into the dipper. In a few seconds, we see Claridge mollering a little bit of the curve there. There is the dipper, throwing the car all the way to the inside. Make sure to be very wary of the car on the exit as the back end tends to slide very easily. And then we go all the way down the Forest Elbow for Mick Claridge, hugging the inside apex all the way up to the inside wall and getting a little bit squirrely as we head downwards Conrad Straight towards the chase.
Well, the one issue there on Mick Claridge's lap was his setup going in towards over the top of Skyline. He had to actually correct out of steering, otherwise he would have clipped the inside wall. That's why he gathered so much curb on the top, and it's such a flow-dependent sector of circuit. If you're out of shape at one part, you are severely out of shape in another part, and that would have cost Mick Claridge in the number 2 car his lap out there. So he knows that he's going to be on the back foot here when it comes to qualifying, and those second lap times for majority of drivers coming in. Claridge can't improve because he won't get around. We're in closed qualifying sessions as Mick Claridge actually goes second fastest. Only briefly, he was on a 202.2, but Tixier the fastest, a 202.193, 7 thousandths of a second only the difference maker. And Hervé Trengarade right now finds himself, if my math is correct, as he's coming through the fastest stage, 8th place. So he's right in the danger zone.
He's right in the danger zone indeed, as we're heading towards the final minute of qualifying right here. 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the clock. The number 9 of Hervé Trengarade having run through the chase all the way down towards the final corner right here at Mount Panorama, breaking down as we're heading towards the start-finish straight. What will the time of Ove Tregerade be at the line? It will be a 2:02.831, which will be good enough to move him back up the order in 5th position. And this looks like we might be seeing the end of the session. Only a couple of drivers, including Mick Claridge, currently on a lap time. But yeah, Sebastian Tixier making a statement of intent right there, even though this it's very much slim pickings at the top with just 7 thousandths between 1st and 2nd.
It's very close at the top. The last driver who will be able to set a time with the time remaining in session will be Wade Sheedy, who's just coming around the final corner now and has just crossed the line to set a 2:05.6, which has not improved position. But Thomas, an incredible time up at the top. And I think we've seen it right here. Number one, he didn't have a win before coming into this season. Well, now look at him. He is absolutely flying with looking for his 4th win of the season.
Indeed, Sebastian Tixier will run the race in pole position with Xavier Sanchez right alongside him in P2, P3 for Mick Claridge and Thomas Cosron in P4. Row 3 will be comprised of Ove Trengaray, the current championship leader, with Benjamin Jocko in 6th position. Row number 4 will be comprised of Bill Tyler and Marcel Pfister, with row number 5 comprised of Richard Watson and Ryan G. Walker.
There's a lot of comprising here as row 6 will hold up Neil Kemp and Laus Olsen coming in for a ride. Nice to see Laus out there, and he's got another Olsen behind him with a different spelling. John Olsen starts 13th with David Rossi in 14th position. Robert Plumley, the world of Kinducci, he'll go from 15th with Ryan Carwile alongside him in 16th place with Emmanuel Pereira and Tobias Hanvey rounding out row 9. Row 10, we'll see Rody Wallbank and Wade Sheedy there on the grid, Thomas.
On row 11, then we will find Ryan Freeman with a 2:05.833 sitting alongside Paul Wilson. On row 12, Andres Bruno and Terry Tromishauser, Cam Porter and Bruce Nelson in row 13. Row 14, Andrew Ang, the only man left to set at the time, with Joe Halton in 28th, then 29th and 30th. We find Brad Cathcart and Alan Graham in 30th position, with the last runner on the zone on row 16 will be Philippe Girard.
Yeah, Philippe Girard then at the back. Drivers will have 2 minutes to get themselves gridded up as they line up under the Repco sign. It's the hot one here today in Australia. No surprises. 43-degree track temperature in British, but when it comes to American temperatures, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a hot one. Wind's not going to be too much of a factor here today. This is going to be about just keeping it composed over the early stages. They've got those massive rear tyres they've got to work with. Plus, this is a stay in range sort of track here, Thomas, where you have to be in range on the Mountain Straight and the Conrod Straight. Those two straights are the big important places if you want to make moves today.
Indeed. Keeping it cool, calm, and collected on lap 1 is definitely going to be the order of the day for every single one of the 31 starters that are taking part in this final round of Season 4 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. As we're currently waiting on the grid has formed up. The red light is on, and we're already racing. The field is let loose in Bathurst, and we're already seeing a great start from Sebastian Tixier. But you can see, actually, Mick Claridge moving up ahead of Javier Sanchez as we run down the Hell Corner and make our way all the way onto Mountain Straight. It is going to be Tixier, Claridge, Sanchez, Cosdron, and Joko in the top 5 as we head under the Petters Bridge and over the hump before breaking down towards Quarry Corner.
One driver chose to start from the pits, and it's Ove Trengaray who's left himself a bit of a challenge today. And now, all of a sudden, we have a championship. How far can Ove Trengaray avoid everybody in this field and move up through? On the brakes, uphill at the cutting they go. For the very first time, Mick Claridge getting a really nice start, then moving ahead of Xavier Sanchez and immediately putting the gauntlet down for Sebastian Tixier out then at this moment in time. But every single corner now is going to be pretty much single file. This is the mountain. You respect the mountain at this point. Do not go too wide up the mountain.
Do not go too wide of the mountain. Starting off at McPhillamy, everybody keeping it neat and tidy as we head down over the Skyline and through the S's up into the Dipper on board, looking at the rear of the engine of Sebastian Tixier, with Mick Claridge hunting down very, very closely. Then the number 4, Sanchez, a little bit further behind him as we head down towards Force to Elbow. Mick Claridge looking to catch up a little bit here, under braking, not quite. And here Sebastian Tixier will try to open it up a little bit. Everybody going absolutely pedal to metal all the way down Conrad Straight. The car's flying as we head over the hill, and look at Mick Claridge actually having a little bit of a run on Tixier. Is he going to go side by side towards the end of the Conrad Straight? Yes, he is going to be going towards the inside, but he's going to have to back out of it. Tixier keeps the lead. Are they going to be able to make it through the chase unscathed? It looks as though, oh, actually, Tixier going up into the wall, going up into the grass, and that's going to be giving Mick Claridge the actual lead of the race. And Tixier will now be looking at defending versus Sanchez and Costron as well, looking a little bit racy, trying to make a little bit of room in the final corner. But so far, no mas for Costron, who sits in P4, and Tixier was actually leading at the start of lap 1, and unfortunately just that little bit of a deep run in the chase was enough to give Claridge the lead at the moment. So it's Claridge, Tixier, Sanchez, Costron, and Choco, your top 5.
Well, it's so easy for Sebastian Tixier just to run a little bit wide like he did. He was trying to be the last of the late breakers, and the trouble just arose by the fact that you've got to negotiate the chase, the fastest corner in Australian motorsport, and it very, very nearly was more drama than it was worth. Crucially, Tomasz Costron is a very quick driver in 4th position. He'll want to make some moves early. He's been very, very quick when it comes to open wheel formula vehicles. This is a little bit of a stray challenge in terms of that, but this is an important opening then to this race. Who can find positions early? 17 laps. They will fly by really, really quickly up and down the mountain, trying to find those places, but a settled pattern then as they reach Skyline for the second time.
As they reach Skyline for the second time, indeed, currently following along with Tomasz Costron, finding himself 1.9 seconds away from the leader, but most crucially 6/10 behind currently 3rd place Javier Sanchez. We're on board with Laust Olsen currently sitting in 9th in the middle of the field, following along Ryan J. Walker up ahead of him, and Masop Vista in the number 7 and number 12 respectively, as they make their way down to Forest Elbow. As you can see, Laust Olsen going very close to the inside very early on here before they run down the mountain towards Conrad Straight. And you can see the field starting to spread out a little bit, the gap's starting to settle a little bit. We have seen lap 1s already being close, and now everybody's trying to keep their distancing, social distancing measures as we speak. I mean, we've been already 2 years into this, but everybody just wants to chill out a little bit and take it on their own time and do their own race at this point.
Look, the one thing that's always talked about in Bathurst 1000 racing, which is the big race around here, is you've got to buy yourself a ticket to the end. And Laust Olsen, seeing Ryan Walker and Marcel Pfister just slowly showcasing that they might want to have a battle, they are immediately thinking, okay, let's build ourselves then, or give ourselves a little bit of a gap, give ourselves then a ticket to the end. One car down in the pits then who didn't make it through the opening laps, or 2, were Neil Kemp and Ryan Freeman. So they got together on the opening lap. Both of those drivers then effectively out of the race with what they've had to deal with. But coming up towards Griffin's Bend turn 2, there's troubles are brewing there. And there's Hervé Trengarade getting a freebie position from Andrew Eng, who ran off there at Hell Corner.
And Hervé Trengarade, who opted to start the race from the pit lane, currently sitting in 25th as we speak. Going over the hump on Mountain Straight, breaking down towards Quarry Corner. Currently, Hervé Trengarade, the championship leader, looking to lose the lead here if positions stay as they are, with Sebastian Tixier currently looking pretty solid. Although there is plenty of change into the rankings as we speak. With Clarix, well, I was gonna say that, but my ranking was actually a little bit messed up. But yeah, Clarix, Tixier, Sanchez, Costron, and Choco still very much leading, and then currently Hervé Trengarade looking to basically do a little bit of a last to first challenge, although that might be a little bit risky going around here.
It is risky because you've got half the lap essentially where you can't make an overtake, and Trengarade is bottled up behind Brad Cathcart, who loves racing Mount Panorama, anything he can. Joe Holton, Andres Bruno. This is frustrating because he's got a lot more pace than these drivers in front. He proved so when it came to qualifying that he had a lot more pace. Compared to the likes of, say, Andres Bruno, who did a 2:06.8. He's about 4 seconds a lap quicker than these drivers when he's pushing. And that's a big, big difference. 4 seconds a lap around here. He's going to have to pick them off one at a time. He'll move to the left-hand side. He's going to get a little bit of help from Joe Holton just in front, and he is really making that Ford DFV engine work hard on this straight, hitting over 310 kilometers an hour, and you still got to try and get it stopped on something which is not too dissimilar to a bit of Swiss cheese under braking, proved there by Brad Cathcart, who ran slightly wide.
Brad Cathcart running slightly wide, and then Trengarai making short work of Joe Holton, who actually helped him overtake Brad Cathcart into the final corner, and Trengarai moving up into P18 as things stand at the moving up a little bit further up the order as we see a little bit of a battle overhead with Laust Olsen following overhead from P9 with then someone behind him. I think it was Richard Watson indeed, trying to put a move on Laust Olsen, trying to pressure him into making a mistake, but so far Laust Olsen is soaking up the pressure really well in these very, very early stages. Again, we're on lap 4. Even though the gaps have widened, we still see a few battles going up and down the order, and it's very amazing to see that we still have very much everything up for grabs right here in terms of the actual race results.
Well, these drivers know they can't afford to push too hard, and that's the key here. They head over the metal grate there. You could see it there on the right-hand side. And they know that in the early stage, they want to go too wide. They can do it at turns like turn 2. But you want to go for those 70%, 50% moves when you're down to the final couple of laps. Here, this is the sort of track you look at and go, I want a 90% move plus if I want to try and get myself through. I don't want any risk at all associated with every move that I am trying to put together around this track. And I think it really does show as Tomasz Kozron right now has got himself side by side with Benjamin Shoko looking for position. And Shoko is going to go around the outside. He's going to have to get it chalked up on the brakes, and he's going to manage that. So add that as a position for Ben Shoko in the number 5. You got to look for the right move at the right time. And that's what those 2 long straights are for. If you can get yourself tunneled in with the slipstream, you've got a really good chance of making a move.
Indeed, but the slipstream is going to be effectively very important with these cars, even though they're missing the wings that we see with the more contemporary Formula 1 cars today, with Sebastian Tixe taking the fastest lap of the race at 202.425 in the meantime. It is very much going to be the case of being right within the gearbox of the car up ahead if you really want to make a move. In the meantime, Claridge and Tixe not really giving themselves an inch and not letting each other basically let loose too fast and let go too fast, as we're currently on board with TXA. Just 0.7 of a second between these two at the start of lap number 5, and Javier Sanchez having a bit of a lonely race behind him. In the meantime, Soko actually in the pits and with a pretty badly damaged race car. We're going to have to wait and see, in fact, on the GSRC replay, what happened to Shoko. So here he is on the run towards Mountain Straight, and that's a contact with the number 10, I think, that might have been unfolded with the number 10 trying to go for a run down through Quarry Corner. The number 10 dives to the inside, and Shoko leaves him plenty of room. Oh, but then does not manage to get it stopped in Quarry. Oh, both of them actually spinning out. Yeah, both of them heading into the pedigree wall.
Yeah, both of them out the race, and the reason why is that Tomasz Kozron was trying to get to the inside of Benjamin Shoko. Shoko did the right thing. He left the room, but by the time he needed to turn in and reach the apex, how was that avoided by Bill Tyler in the 6? The issue that you've got at that section of road is that if you can't get it stopped, if you're leaving that room, you have to deviate from your line, there's nothing on the exit. It's just mountain. So you're just going to run into mountain. There's nowhere to go. Of all people, that helps. It is Hervé Trengarade who will be very happy about that, and this train as well, which all of a sudden now goes from a race for 7th position to a race for 5th. Marcel Pfister in trouble as Laust Olsen thinks about a move to the inside, and you know what? He's going to get a lot of respect there as Laust Olsen there. Door being left open by Marcel Pfister as the spotter would have come in and said, hey, you got a car on your inside, and you know what? I think Laust Olsen wants to start getting a little bit aggressive here, but he can't too much because Watson's still there behind. Big issue there on the exit. Thank you very much, says Richard Watson.
Yeah, there we go. A little bit too eager on the loud pedal there for Laust Olsen, allowing Richard Watson to move through due to that little bit of a loose moment there for the number 8 car of Laust Olsen, who is now going to be right within the slipstream of Richard Watson, all the way down through Quarry Corner. But as the positions stand, it is currently Pfister, Watson, Watson, and Olsen from 6th through 8th. And just further up ahead, you can see Ryan Walker, if I'm walking correctly. Yeah, Ryan G. Walker currently sitting in 5th in the number 7 car as they make their way through the quarry.
Yeah, but he's trying to break away and get to the back of Bill Tyler. The top 3 have all broken away in this one at the front as they go through, and it looks like there might be a few troubles out there for number 9, Hervé Trengaray. And this is big because this is how it goes down. It's down the hill through the lefts and rights, and there's the spinning
the 21. Oh, no.
In front, and that will decide everything. That's Cam Porter getting it wrong, and that's why you don't start from the back, because you get yourself involved in an incident which has nothing to do with you, and you find yourself a passenger. Trengaray may have just cost himself a title.
Indeed, as we're watching this from the perspective of Trengaray, we can see Cam Porter just going a little bit too hot on the right before Forest Elbow, and then just avoidance being taken there by Trengaray, but too little too late, and he's parked on the left wall towards Forest Elbow, and that's basically his championship aspirations over, and basically just a boulevard to cross for Sébastien Tixier, who's currently sitting in 2nd in the race and looking set to have the championship in his hands as long as he's able to bring it home. But never say never, because we've seen in the mountain things can turn around pretty quick. So Sébastien Tixier is going to have to keep it on his toes and doesn't necessarily need to win the race anymore. Just needs to cruise along and bring the car home. And there's still 10 or 11 laps or so to actually do in order to bring the car home.
Now, the key here is that Sébastien Tixier's got a bit of space now between himself and Mick Claridge, and you would have seen in the pits as he went by on the black box relative, you would have seen there the name of number 9, Hervé Trengaray, in the pits. That would have been his cue and signal to go, oh, he's had an issue. I've got free license just to bring this car home. He doesn't have to worry about number 2, Mick Claridge, who is a legend when it comes to the classic machinery, especially the Lotus 49. And for Tixier now, the Australian who is based out of Singapore, he is now thinking about, can he get a championship? He'll look behind. He'll know that he'll have Javier Sanchez there for company. But behind Javier Sanchez, even if he drops down to 3rd position right now, he'll have himself a huge 10-second gap over Bill Tyler. So he's still got a lot of time in the back pocket. He doesn't have to worry too much. And I think now's the time where he's just got to focus on putting a clean lap together. If there's any places he gets mighty tight to the wall on the exit of the Forest Elbow, if there's any place to try and focus on just getting a clean lap, it's this track.
Yeah, indeed, and maybe avoiding a few of the heart flutters that we've seen right there from Sébastien Tixier, going a little bit wide and getting a little bit loose on the run down through Forest Elbow, as we're currently following along with Richard Watson, who got pretty close to Ryan Walker right there on the run down Conrad Straight. Is he going to be thinking about the move? Moves over to the inside as they make their way down through Conrad Straight. No, he's going to have to back out and lets through Ryan Walker. He's going to think of a move down to the chase. Not quite. And then just behind him, we find Marcel Fista in the number 12, currently sitting in 7th position. So far, not really any aggression for Richard Watson, even though he definitely thought about that move.
No, I think right now Richard Watson's just got to be alert, because he would have made a late charge to try and go through if he really, really wanted it. And ultimately, it's put him in a sort of position where now he's thinking about the group behind. Fister's still there. Olsen's still there. They're both going to try and figure out how they go about this race, how they go about getting themselves back in and making a challenge. As just behind, there's going to be a bit of side-by-sides. We were looking from Ryan Walker's perspective, because that's going to be Laust Olsen making the move on Marcel Pfister up into turn 2 on circuit. Runs slightly wide, holds the line on the exit, and he might be challenged up into the cutting, but he'll be okay. He's got more than the nose in front, so he's got that all nicely wrapped up with a nice, neat bow. So still that in terms of dissecting, I think. Right decision being made by number 17, Richard Watson. But all of a sudden, that gap over the line was only 0.6 between Sanchez and Tixier. And I think Sébastien Tixier knows he's not going to be too comfortable having Javier Sanchez right behind. Having someone breathing down your neck is definitely not what you actually want to have when you actually just want to keep yourself out of trouble. But Javier Sanchez is having a little bit of a different word of it with the number 4, looking to try and maybe get another solid result with a 2nd position, potentially up for grabs as they make their way down Conrad Straight. Tixier
Tixier leading Sanchez by around 7/10. The gap, of course, visually slightly widening as a result of the high-speed section that we have on the Conrad Straight, and they make their way down to the chase. The car is bouncing around all over with that suspension very much working to keep all 4 tires onto the ground, and so far it is still going to be Tixier keeping a gap of roughly around 7 to 8 tenths, and Javier Sanchez maybe just waiting for the prime moment, biding his time and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Yeah, that perfect time. Question is, firstly, he's got to get up there, and he dropped a couple tenths of a second that last lap. He dropped 3 tenths of a second, so he's got to get there first, and once he gets there, he's going to have to try and find the pass, and that is the more difficult point entirely. So still a lot to try and work out, still a lot to go through. Worth noting as well, got a race on for 10th place, and it's an important 10th place back. Robert Plumley and David Rossi out there, the 18 and the 19 cars respectively. Rossi, the F2 champion, is going to be looking at Robert Plumley right in front, thinking, top 10 as an F2 driver, I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, indeed. David Rossi currently trailing Robert Plumley by around 7 to 8 tenths of a second as they make their run down to Quarry Corner. It is currently Robert Plumley who will be leading that charge in the number 19 car in 10th position. Both trying to get a little bit of closer to John Olsen, who has a bit of a buffer, 2 seconds to actually play with before getting caught up to by this little squabble for 10th position.
Yeah, so there is a few squabbles out there on circuit, and it is worth keeping an eye out on number 19 as he looks to try and keep himself in play in this race, but he is starting to slowly extend that gap, and that's going to be crucial. They've got Emmanuel Pereira and Ryan Carlisle just behind as well, about 7 seconds down the road, so it looks like they're going to be settling into their race right now as we are over the halfway stage in the final race of this season here for what is your Grand Prix Legends, and all Tixier has to do is bring it home. Ryan Walker will once again be under pressure down the hill, and this time it looks a lot more comprehensive from Richard Watson, as we just saw that in the back of shot as they went through, as Watson has got the move done, and on the brakes they're all going to check back up again. So Richard Watson now will move himself up into the final spot in the top 5, but only for a moment because Walker's got a great run off the exit.
Yeah, Walker getting a great run off of the chase, but he's probably not going to be thinking about that move down into the final corner. And then behind, hello, it is Mr. Laust Olsen in the number 8 and Marcel Pfister in the number 12. We're still looking very hot on the heels of Watson and the crew, and the battle for top 5 is still very much in high heat at the moment, even though Watson is trying to pull a gap on, he's starting to try and pull a gap on Ryan Walker just behind him. But as they head down Mountain Straight, you can see Laust Olsen looking a little bit more pressuring on the number 7 car. Is he going to be going onto the brakes down the quarry? Not quite. It's just not, it's not quite enough yet to guarantee making the move for Laust Olsen, but very, very great move from Richard Watson in the previous lap down the Conrad Straight, and the move getting done before the chase pretty much, and everybody managing to get it stopped.
Well, he needs to see the move, and that's one thing more than I can do today. But if he can see the move, then he's got himself a great opportunity to make that pass. But the issue he's got is that Richard Watson will give the toe to Ryan Walker, and as such, Ryan Walker's got the ultimate defense to the ultimate attack out there on circuit. So some good work then still needing to be done out there overall. And I wouldn't say that this race is over and done with and written off at this point in time between these four for 5th position out there. There have been no incidents since about 4 laps ago. So Benjamin Shoko, at least at this point in time, the last retiree. We've lost Benjamin Shoko, Thomas Cosjon, Hervé Trengare, Paul Wilson, Brad Cathcart, Wade Sheedy, Ryan Freeman, Alan Graham, and Neil Kemp. So a number of retirees already to be expected, but we're in the important laps now. These are the money laps. You make these laps, and actually I've just seen in the pits Tobias Harnvey has been involved in an incident. So Tobias Harnvey's race is going to be done. He's driven the car in himself, it looks like, with damage.
Yeah, looks like that a damaged Lotus 49 for the number 23. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay to find out what happened. So we already seen. Oh, is it at the cutting that he actually had a little bit of a moment? No,
yeah,
that's Tell why the cutting. Yeah, indeed, the car is pretty damaged all the way through the lap. We're going back to, there's the car of the 23 looking in much better condition. That was at the start of the lap. Making his way through Quarry Corner pretty much unscathed as we head through towards the cutting. Gets it, oh, goes a bit too wide, can't quite save it, and that's a hard impact onto the outside wall of the cutting, and pretty badly bent suspension and pretty badly damaged race car, meaning race over for Tobias Hanvey.
Pretty bad all the way around there, but that's how quickly you miss a braking point by 5 meters here, and that's the end result of it. So there's always that trouble. There is number 1, Sebastian Tixier, who's just been given a bit of a lifeline to get away from Xavier Sanchez, who very nearly got the wall up through the metal grate. So trouble's almost brewing for the Spaniard, who missed. In fact, I think he's actually just clipped it as he went through. So that could have been all over for number 4, Xavier Sanchez, in this race, as he slightly missed it. He did, in fact, grab the wall. So that might be Sanchez having to nurse a tiny bit of damage. We know how fragile the suspension is. It's literally just a rod on the top and the rod on the bottom and the entire axle going through the middle. So you've got 3 points that you can break. If you break even one of them, that's it, race over.
That's it, race over. But in the meantime, look at this battle between the 17 and the 6. Richard Watson has actually made the junction to Bill Tyler on the way down towards Conrad Strait. The number 17 shows himself on the outside of Conrad Strait. The number 6 covers it. Bill Tyler looking to defend tooth and nail P4 at the moment as they make their way through the chase. Richard Watson has pretty much left Ryan Walker and Mossop Fista left in the dust, pretty much courtesy of clearing traffic at as what it seems like. And Watson looking at a prime opportunity to move further up into the top 5 as a number 6 of Bill Tyler is going to be under increasing pressure from the 17.
Yeah, and this is just good driving here from Richard Watson. 203, when the traffic caused Bill Tyler to do a 205. It swings and roundabouts here at Mount Panorama when it comes to lap traffic. So it's always difficult to deal with, but if there's anyone to deal with right now, Richard Watson is proving it, and if he can find the move up the mountain straight, that would be nice as they take that big dip, which is almost feeling like the pit of your stomach's just jumping up into you as you go through that section. But not close enough just yet. He'll shadow Bill Tyler up the mountain, see where he's quick, see what he does very well, and if he can manage to shadow him nicely, might have a chance back down the hill again come the end of this lap.
Still looking very, very close. Just 0.4 of a second between these two as we're moving back onto the fight for top 10 with Robert Plumley and David Rossi, and also both of them catching up to John Olsen. Olsen just 0.8 up the road for both Plumley and Rossi, so the battle for P10 being upgraded to a battle for P9 in this race, with the number 3 of John Olsen having lost a little bit of time in the last couple laps to Robert Plumley. Plumley currently sitting in 10th position in the number 19 car and being chased down by the Formula 2 champion for this season, David Rossi, as they make their way through the S's. So far, it will be Plumley looking very easy, as you can see from the helicopter shot right now. David Rossi still very much fighting tooth and nail as they head down through Forest Elbow right now, and John Olsen seeing the two actually move back up together. It is going to be a bit of a hot moment, especially with just 5 laps to go here at Bathurst.
Well, 5 laps to go, and it's going to be a tough one for them. They've got 5 and a bit out there as Mick Claridge again sets fastest lap by another 0.2 of a second. So the chase is very much there, and it's about where do you find the pass. Now, John Olsen is a quick driver. Yes, he's been losing a little bit of time here and there, but John Olsen is a pretty quick driver. He is consistently up there and looking for good results when he's racing. But someone like Robert Plumley is always going to try and find that extra place. He knows how to do it. He knows how to find it. Robert Plumley is a veteran when it comes to iRacing. He's been racing for years on years on years. In fact, he's one of the first drivers I ever knew in iRacing. One of the first iRacing broadcasts I ever watched. He was in it. He was racing. So he knows a thing or two about all of iRacing, and he'll be looking to put all that expertise to use as he tries to find a way past John Olsen.
Indeed, as Plumley has already pulled a little bit of a gap on David Rossi. The gap actually still staying around 6 to 7 of a second between each of these 3 drivers right there, separated by equal amounts as they make their way up through the cutting. And in the meantime, yes, you mentioned it, Mick Claridge 2/10 of a second faster on the fastest lap. 2:01.882 for the number 2 car, currently leading the race, 3 seconds clear of Sebastian Tixier, who himself is 1.2 seconds clear of Javier Sanchez. The gaps having stabilized around the 1.2 second mark, even though they managed to increase slightly here over the last couple of laps, but still, Javier Sanchez looks to have escaped pretty much unscathed from that little wall clip that we mentioned a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, he's got away with one, and he's kept it within about a second and a bit as we chase down the hill here through this wonderful section. Robert Plum, wow.
That was a heart moment right there, getting all the way kinds of loose. The rear wanted to overtake the front and potentially killing Robert Plum's virtual driver with him, and that is going to cost him dearly, allowing John Olsen to get a little bit of room to breathe, and that's going to allow David Rossi to close the gap back down to just 0.4 of a second as they make their way down Conrad Straight.
Code Brown.
Code Brown, yeah.
Simply put, Code Brown. You don't like to be fishtailing when you're going down the hill there, but Robert Plumley has survived to tell the tale, and I'm sure in about 4 laps, when he gets back into the virtual pits, they'll have a virtual change of overalls there waiting for him.
Yeah, overall changes, not simply just the underwear, it's pretty much all the overalls that need to be changed with the kind of moment that he has had on the run down towards Forest Elbow, but still, Plumley survives to tell the tale, survives keeping 10th position well and truly alive, despite the challenge for P9 having taken a little bit of a toll. In fact, not quite that much. He's only lost a 10th out of the whole operation when we actually starting lap number 14 right here, so Plumley still somewhat in the hunt, but he's going to be running out of laps pretty quick if he does not actually catch up to John Olsen up front.
Yeah, it just cost the run. It's cost a lap's worth of run, a lap's worth of I'm in position to make the overtake. So it's not the end of the world right now, but there are less opportunities, and it means that it becomes more telegraphed the later it goes on during the race. I wonder as well if those drivers who are sat behind right now, the likes of Richard Watson, for example, are just going to be happy having to sit and wait and put themselves in the right position. It's worth noting there have been some tyre tracks up the top of the hill, which are not anyone that I saw from the front of the race. So that's okay. But Richard Watson right now, sat in the right position. I'm pretty sure he's waiting for the right time to strike.
Indeed. In the meantime, up front, it seems as though the gap has closed up between Tixier and Sanchez. They have won down to 2/10. I wonder what happened to Tixier to cause the gap to drop down significantly, with Sanchez just behind Tixier as they make their way through the chase. There it is. The number 1 being harrowing, with a harrowing chase versus the number 4 right behind him as we get started on lap number 15 here in this final race. 3 laps to hold on. Sanchez maybe looking a little bit on the inside, trying to show himself in the mirrors of Tixier, trying to raise the heart rate a little bit of the driver in front. So far, Tixier is still very much looking prime for second place, but still very much looking on the defense. It's going to be a case of not if, but when is Sanchez going to attempt the move. He's really right there. He's 2/10 behind, looking to try maybe make a move at the quarry. Not quite. He's just going to be sitting behind and biding his time again. As I said, not an if, but when is Sanchez going to be overtaking Tixier?
Look, they've got long accelerations and they can reach really high speeds, and we see how strong the slipstream is. You also have to remember they have really long braking zones. So when they are hitting the brakes and they're trying to get this car slowed down, what you normally find with a modern style Formula One car is that they've not only got really, really amazing brakes, but they've also got the downforce to help get the car slowed down. All those different vortices there of the air, just pushing that car to slow it down. Not so much when it comes to these machines. You can see they are very sleek and very low to the ground before the term aerodynamics even existed in the vocabulary of Colin Chapman, as now down the hill through they go once again. This is the sort of drive that you have to be very alert to as you go through. You've got to make sure that you are in range, but you've also got to make sure that you're not losing the entirety of the race. And just look at how much torque goes through those rear tires. Both drivers pushing it right to the limit as they try to get the power down the hill out of the Forest Elbow.
Yeah, especially high in the RPM, that torque does tend to get pretty significant, and it's very easy to break traction, even with those big old fat tires that we see here on the Lotus 49's. Tixier currently managing to wind the gap a tiny bit, giving himself a little bit more room to breathe compared to the last lap. We're now back up to around half a second between Sanchez and Tixier, just 2 and a bit laps to go, but I'm guessing this is still going to be 10 times for Tixier, because the last thing you want is the guy behind you looking to make a move, misjudge his braking zone, and potentially taking both of themselves out of the race.
Yeah, that's not what you want. And especially for Tixier, he'll be very alert to the fact that if Xavier Sanchez goes for a move on these final 2 laps, knowing that he's got a championship to think about, he will dive well out of the way and let Xavier Sanchez go and have that place. I don't think he wants to be playing games right now as he now climbs the rise once again for his penultimate run around in this one. So there is still chances for these races all to bring themselves to a beautiful conclusion here in this race. But I'd say for Sebastian Tixier, he's just got to keep ticking off the corners one at a time and he'll get it done.
Just keep taking the corners one at a time. Keep just living the race lap by a lap, and then you will be safe back home. Mr. Tixier currently sitting in second as we're currently seeing him make his way through Solman Park all the way up to McPhillamy with Sanchez right behind him, half a second behind the number 1 car, and Mick Claridge well clear of that battle, 4.2 seconds ahead. He's going to be all the way down to Forest Elbow and making his way down Conrad Straight as it's going to be soon the final lap of this race and of the season here, Jake.
Yeah, and what an incredible season it's been. Sebastian Tixier is the sort of driver who you look at and he just improves and improves and improves. He's not on the same pace today as Mick Claridge as we watch Robert Plumley once again with his eyes fixed on John Olsen's number 3. That pretty much nose to tail up the top of the hill as they look to go down Peter Brock's skyline. But it's the sort of season today for Sebastian Tixier where you don't have to always win the race to win the championship, but second position often gets the job done. And if people fall into trouble around you who you're racing against in a championship, your job is simply to score more points than them. Not score all the points more than them, score more points than them. Doesn't matter if it's second, third, fourth, fifth, rubber duck. You can go out there, you can make it happen, and you can score some good points. And Tixier's proven that today. Knock on wood for one more lap.
Knock on wood for one more lap indeed. The final lap of the race being undertaken by the leader, Mick Claridge. We're currently following along with Robert Plumley, looking to catch up to John Olsen. Meanwhile, a little bit further up in the pack, it will be Richard Watson and Bill Tyler. Another hot battle to follow. There it is, the number 6 and the number 17 car, who are still very much separated by only 0.4 of a second. Still very close battles here for top 4, top 5 positions. And then further behind, the gap has been quite well and truly spread out with Ryan Walker and Masa Festa a little bit further down into the distance as we head through Mountain Straight for the final time. Is the number 17 going to try to go for a move? Dives down to the inside onto the run towards Corey. Not quite. He's a bit too far back to make the move, but we see actually Bill Tyler going a bit wide, and he's going to get this the actual move done with the number 6 going a bit wide into Quarry, and that's going to be an easy position for Richard Watson, moving up into 4th place as we run through the cutting. And meantime, Mick Claridge looking very, very cool, calm and collected. There is the leader who has decided to, well, he has had to clear traffic, but that explains the drop in the gap from 4 to 2.1 seconds. But just one final sector to go. The run down Forest Elbow for Mick Claridge in the number 2 car. Then keep it pinned, keep it flat to the floor, wide open through Conrad Straight. Then the run to the chase. Be very careful on picking your braking zones there. You don't want to actually go too deep. It's a common thing to actually, at the end of the race, go for a little jump down the sand pit right there, but unfortunately, it's not really what you want to do at the final lap of the race. There he goes down through the chase with the nose diving as he goes onto the brakes. Sebastian Tixier behind him, keeping Sanchez at bay, and it looks as though we are going to be set on this final race right here. One final corner to go. Mick Claridge will be winning the final race of the season right here in the Lotus 29 Grand Prix Series. Mick Claridge a winner at Bathurst, and most importantly, Sebastian Tixier, with that second place, wins the title in Formula 1 of the Grand Prix Legends Series. Xavier Sanchez in P3, Richard Watson P4, who came back last minute versus well, actually, I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself with Richard Watson making his way down through the final corner with Bill Tyler just behind him. You can see it. Richard Watson finishing in 4th position, P5 for Bill Tyler, who will be holding off against Ryan Walker in P6. Mick Claridge the winner, but a very worthy champion in Tixier. Bravo.
Yeah, fantastic drive there from Tixier. Just did all that was needed to do. I want to get a look on this final lap at what happened to Emmanuel Pereira, if possible, because he's had a big off coming down the Forest Elbow, let out a massive no! What's going on out there on that final lap? And it was right down at the elbow. He was in front, actually, was Emmanuel Pereira, as he was trying to fend off, in the end, Ryan Carwile, I believe it was, who was there just behind, going through the right and the left, and it's lap 17 of 17 where it doesn't go right.
Oh,
He's in
no.
a bit too hot, and that's the contact.
Straight on into the outside wall at Forest Elbow. Such a shame for Emmanuel Pereira right there, who was sitting in 13th. That is such a shame for the number 26 car. So, Mick Claridge, the winner. Tixier, the champion. We'll be back with the results and post-race interviews after this short break. Well, that was the last race of the season and the beautiful conclusion to this season of the Grand Prix Legends Series with a new race winner and a new champion, of course. Mick Claridge having won the race 1.4 seconds clear of Sébastien Tixier, who wraps up the title in style right here with second place and a solid points haul. Javier Sanchez completes the podium, Richard Watson fourth, Bill Tyler in P5. Richard Watson, kudos to him for a beautiful comeback towards the end of the race. Bill Tyler fifth, Ryan Walker 6th, Maso Fista 7th, Laust Olsen P8, John Olsen P9, and Robert Plumley completes the current top 10. Just behind, we will find David Rossi in P11. So there you have it. David Rossi 11th, Ryan Carwell in 12th position, Emmanuel Pereira 13th. After that late lunge into that late contact with the wall at Forest Alba on the final lap, Rolly Wallbank 14th, Joe Halton 15th, Terry Thomas Hauser in 16th, Cam Porter P17, Bruce Nelson P18, 19th for Andrew Eng, and 20th for Philippe Girard, 21st for Tobias Hanvey, Andres Bruno in 22nd, Wade Sheedy in 13th. Then we head into the retirees. Benjamin Choco in P14, Thomas Kostron in P14, P24, P25 for Thomas Kostron. 26th, we find Ove Trengereid, who had to retire early on after deciding to start the race from the pits. Got involved in an incident with Cam Porter back in lap number 4, effectively ending his title aspirations. Paul Wilson, P27, P28 for Brad Cathcart, P29 for Ryan Freeman, Neil Kemp in 30th position, and the last starter, P31, that will be Alan Graham, who was one of the early casualties in this race. Well, I think we have already one of our contestants, and none other than our race winner that is here with us, Mick Claridge. Mick, congratulations on winning for the first time and the only time this season here at the Mountain.
Well, thanks very much. Cheers.
Now, let's go back to lap number 1. You were lining up second, right alongside Tixier, and then you saw the opportunity right towards the end of the lap as we went all the way down Conrad Straight and down towards the chase. What was actually going on in your mind as you were actually going through lap 1?
Well, the thing that was going through my mind was I've not even run this line in any practice session whatsoever, so there's no way I'm going to go for a move. So I just backed out of it well early. And obviously Seb couldn't see me because he was next to me and he was on the limit of the brakes. So, yeah, I wasn't even going for a move there. But, yeah, and it's actually a shame that he came off there like that because looking at pace, it was pretty close, you know, so it might have been a good battle through the rest of the race. So, yeah, a bit of a shame there for him.
Bit of a shame for him, for you. But when it comes to the actual race, after lap 1, it was pretty much I wasn't going to say lonely race, but it was fairly controlled up ahead. You've even widened the gap up to 4 seconds in that time. Just wanted to ask you, how much of control and how much of brain power does it take to actually control the race on such a track with such a car combo?
I'll tell you about the brain power. That's a really good question for me today because I was... well, in qualifying, I messed up qualifying, and this is all because of the same reason. So I messed up qualifying. Then we start the race, and I just didn't feel comfortable in the rest of it. So when I got round Seb, that was when my brain could relax, and I suddenly realised I'm not sitting in my rig properly. So that's why I've not been able to just be comfortable. So that's how much brain power it took. So I wasn't even thinking about that, and it wasn't until I got round Seb and had a bit of clear track and could think along the straights where I thought, oh yeah, let me just move. And then I'll be all right, you know. So yeah, brain power. It does take a lot here.
Yeah, I quite imagine with these cars being quite a handful, especially at some of the humps, particularly down the mountain straight. Now the season is over. We have a 2-week break before we head back in action with December 17th being the new race, the first race of the 2023 season 1. Anyone you want to actually thank in particular for the win today? The floor is yours.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, just want to thank you guys for all the broadcasting. Thank you for whoever stepped in today to cover me. So thank you for that. Well done to Uwe for the championship. I'm pretty sure he's won it. I didn't actually know where he finished, but I think just turning up today made him guaranteed his win. So well done to that. And yeah, thanks for all the guys that watch. That number's dwindling slowly, but never mind. Yeah, cheers.
All right, cheers, and thank you very much, Mick, for being with us here today. That was the interview of your race winner. We're going to be here along with the second place driver in this race, and I think he is definitely going to be our champion for today, Sébastien Tixier. Sébastien, P2. We're going to go back with lap 1. You were starting on pole. What happened there on the run down Conrad Straight?
Well, I thought Mick was going for a move, so I tried to keep the left side and try to brake as late as possible. And well, I guess I brake too late. And yeah, after that, I was managing a bit to stay behind him, but I made too much mistakes. And then Xavier was catching up, so I was nervous. I was nervous during the qualification, so actually it was not a very good lap for me. I was shaking on the grid. Quite happy with P2. It's nice. I think I needed to win the race to win the championship, but like I said to Mick a number of times, I was thinking more of winning race than the championship, so happy with the results.
So yeah, you said yourself you were more managing the race after that little that first lap scare, that first lap move from Mick, and you were increasingly coming under pressure from Javier Sanchez right up until the midway part of the race, where from what we've seen, he actually clipped the wall on the run down towards Forest Elbow. How did you manage to the pressure to actually keep him behind and try to hold on to second place as long as you can?
Well, along the whole season, I know that usually my pace is a bit better during the race, so I knew he can qualify very good. So for me, it was just not doing mistake because I did a lot of little mistake. I also clipped the wall at the elbow corner. I almost spun at the chase. I think even one time I went just go straight and have the slow down, and he was just behind me. So basically, it was like trying to concentrate to not do mistakes. And when I was not doing any mistake, I was managed to increase the gap a little bit and get safe.
Yeah, getting a little bit of a yo-yo gap going on there. So, end of the season, we get a week break, and then the Grand Prix Legend Series restarts on December 17th with the first round. And I think the floor is yours if you want to thank anyone in particular today, and want to thank people who maybe have supported you across this entire season.
The Lotus 49 community, obviously. The GSRC, the broadcast, of course. My teammates from Platinum Racing, nice guys. I really have a good time with them. So, and Wade just joined for the last race, so thanks, Wade. Thanks for the paint, nice paint.
All right, once again, congratulations, Sebastian, on second place here at the mountain. Have a good rest of your day. So we have basically run with our race winner and our second place driver. We have one more person here with it, and I think I'm just going to let Jake take the floor on this one, and it is with Cam Porter.
Cam, I think the most important thing to talk about is your issue that you had going into the Forest Elbow. You had Ove Trengarade behind you, the back stepped out, and all of a sudden it looked like your race was just about okay, but his wasn't. Talk us through it.
Well, I saw Ove coming up behind me. First of all, I need to apologize. I feel awful for that because I know Ove was fighting for the championship. Just, admittedly, I got nervous when I saw him coming up behind me, and I did something I don't normally do, and that's shift into third into that section for some reason. Then when I shifted back to second, I lost the back end, just didn't flip the throttle enough, I guess. And then I locked up the brakes to try to keep it off the walls, but obviously Ove couldn't avoid hitting me and the wall. So thankfully a couple other cars got by and I had the room to get turned around. So again, huge apologies to Ove. I feel bad.
Well, despite all of that and the sincerity of it, you still managed to gain today 8 places during the race. Is that a testament really to just how difficult this track is to keep it all together, seeing that there were at least a third of the field found themselves in retirements today?
Yeah, well, I do have a lot of experience at this track because I race supercars like Sebastian, and I do the Bathurst 1000 every year, so I have a lot of laps at this track, even though I'm not particularly fast here. But yeah, it's really important just to stay off the walls and survive at this track. Kind of like the Nürburgring in some ways. Just surviving is half of the battle.
surviving's half the battle, and so will next season in 2 weeks' time. Are you looking forward to the Week 13 break, and what are you going to get yourself up to?
That's a good question. I'm looking forward to seeing what iRacing has in store for the new season, and maybe testing out some cars and maybe a new track. Who knows? Looking forward to it anyway.
Well, you go and enjoy the already announced Toyota 86. The new GT86 is being added, and enjoy Mangy Core as well. Then with that, Cam, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
I want to thank GSRC for the great broadcast all season, including in Lotus 49, Camel, and all the other series that you guys do. So thanks a lot, guys. Supreme job.
No worries at all. Cam Porter there joining us, a 17th place finish overall, Thomas.
17th place finish overall, and that is pretty much going to wrap this up for this season of Grand Prix Legends. And of course, we want to thank the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here in the Lotus 49s. And of course, thank you to the team for today, comprised of Jake, Rob, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store, linked in the description below or listed on the screen right here. And of course, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment out here on GSRC. The Grand Prix Legends series heads for a single week break, with Week 13. We'll be back on December the 17th for round 1 of 2023 Season 1. Make sure to check out all the other races that are currently listed and make the mark the notes down on your calendar if you're so interested. Speaking of upcoming races, in a couple of hours' time at noon Eastern, we will be watching the final round of the Camel GT Series, taking place at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on track.